reading in Acts is one of those whoa stories. If you haven't read it yet, take a second. It's Acts 16 verses 16 through 40. It's an unbelievable story that starts with a little girl who has these spiritual gifts trailing around Paul as he preaches, saying, "You're the one, you're God, you're the Spirit of God." And Paul, we're told, just gets annoyed. And so he says, "Come out of her." But what happens is this little girl and her spiritual gifts have been profiting some other men who own her, we can tell. They've been making money off of her. And when Paul sends out the Spirit, they're without profit and they're outraged. So they bring in Paul and Silas and they stir up a mob against them, saying these are Jews and they're advocating things that are unlawful against our customs, and the whole town gets whipped up into a frenzy. And Paul and Silas are beaten and they're put in prison. What do they do when they're in prison? We're told in verse 25, about midnight, so the middle of the night, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. After all of this, they're unlawfully punished, put in jail. They're singing and praying, and everybody's listening. And then an earthquake happens, and the chains, not just of Paul and Silas, but of all the prisoners, are broken open. And the jailer rushes in terrified, because what happens to the jailer if this is discovered that all of the prisoners are gone? But Paul says, "Don't run off, we're all here." They've all stayed. And their witness extends not just to the other prisoners, but now to the jailer, who says, "What do I need to do to believe?" They say, "Just believe in the Lord and you and your family will be saved." So then he takes them, washes their wounds. He and all of his family, the jailer's family, are baptized and brought now into the community of faith. And a little while later, they're told that the police, the magistrates, have said they can go free. And Paul says, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're going to send us out of here quietly in secret? No, they arrested us and beat us in the dark, in the broad daylight. They will also come out here and set us free because we are Roman citizens. We have rights. They're holding them accountable to their wrongdoing. There's a lot that happens in this story, and I wonder for you, what's one thing that stands out? For me, it's what happens when Paul and Silas are in prison. If I were in prison in the middle of the night after being beaten, bloodied, tortured, I would probably be complaining or sleeping or outraged, shouting my outrage between the bars. But do you know what they're doing? They're praying together and they're singing hymns to God. What hymns would you be singing in prison? And everybody around them is listening. And when they listen, you can infer they're thinking these two guys are crazy. Crazy at worst, but they're intrigued. They're listening to the response of these two men who have been wrongfully convicted, wrongfully imprisoned. I guess if you're watching this, as you are not in a literal jail, in a literal prison. But what is your hardship? And what are you doing in that cell? Where is the hard place in your life? And what are you doing in that cell of hardship? Today, in that space of hardship, could you take a few moments to pray and sing hymns to God? Because those around you, who know what you're walking through, they are watching. And you have no idea what kind of deliverance God will bring. And when he does deliver you from that cell of hardship, who he will bring along with him to join in the family of faith. You are not alone in that cell. Just like Paul and Silas, although they were together alone in the cell, there were others watching whose lives would be transformed by their faithfulness to God. So endurance to you, my friend. Whatever your cell of hardship, what grief you carry, what struggle you're in, stay strong and faithful because God is a deliverer. He hears you and he sees you, and he will use your hardship to bring many along with you into the family of God. Peace to you today, friends.